Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 7 of our Introduction to Literature class. I wanted to share this week some ideas about theater, some theater conventions, things that go along with going to see a play or reading a play. And then I wanted to share some specific things about our play this week, Proof. We're going to be reading this play this week and next week, Act 1 this week, Act 2 next week. You can feel free to read the whole thing if you'd like. But you're only responsible for reading Act 1 and Act 2. There's Act 1 this week and Act 2 next week. There's a PDF copy in the Week 7 content folder. You'll see it. It does have some annotations, some little notes on the side, but it's the best copy I could find. And if you didn't get the book, you can find that there. There's also a recorded version of the play, I believe, and at least one scene that I posted from Act 1. I'm going to post another scene from Act 2. There is a film version of this as well. I mentioned that in the announcement. You can certainly watch it. I think the performances are pretty good, especially Anthony Hopkins and the sister Hope Davis. She's wonderful. There are some differences between the plot of the play and the plot of the movie. So don't rely just on the movie. Make sure that you're looking at the play as well, if you go the movie route. Alright, so let's talk about theater really quickly. Some of you might have been in theater in high school, or maybe even community theater, or professional theater. Every once in a while I get somebody who's worked professionally. I was a theater kid when I grew up, and it was a really, really wonderful experience. The practice part of it, and the kind of getting together a group of individuals to put on a play was a real exciting part. Like a team, if you will. And it's just a kind of fun thing to pursue in your life if you haven't. Drama is the oldest form of literature. It's a Greek word, and it translates to mean to show, or a deed, or an action. And certainly when you're reading a play, it feels much different than reading a short story. I like to imagine what's going on the stage when I'm reading a play, where the actors might be standing, how they might be discussing or saying the lines. Certainly theater is about putting your heart and soul into performing it. It's strange just to read a play, but it's also a great experience as well. And those are some things you can think about when you read it. Hitchcock, the great film director, said that drama is life, which I think is true. It reflects life, just with the dull bits left out. And I think when you read a play like this, you see that some of those duller moments of life might be alluded to, might be discussed, but you don't really see them, you don't watch them. The individuals in creating a play, there's a number of different kinds of people. We have actors, certainly. Those are the people that we see on stage. But they make up a very small percentage of the people that come together to put on the play. We have a lot of technical people, people that move sets, or run the sound, or run the lights. And those can be elements that add really interesting moods or tones to a play. And you even have some plays these days, back when theater was actually going on, you would have sound engineers design sound effects for a play. So, for example, if you were seeing a play set in New York City, you might hear horns honking, or a siren. In the country, you might hear crickets or the wind. Beyond those technical elements in the actors, what we're really seeing every time is the director's version of the play, how the director wants it to be presented to the audience. And it really can be different between directors in different productions. So when we're seeing the scenes that on YouTube that I posted, or the film version, we're really getting the director's version of that play. And certainly the actor's version as well, but really the mood is set from the top down. And then you also have producers who put on the movie, or the money to produce the play. Now, plays are different in short stories in a few different ways. One, usually plays only have a few settings. It's hard to change scenes. It's not true for every play. Some scenes have some plays have pretty impressive scene changes. But for this play, we stay in the same place the whole time. It's described as, are you ready? I know you're excited. The back porch of a house in Chicago. I'm going to show you maybe a picture or two here in a minute. But they stay outside on that porch the whole time. The seasons change. in this play, but the location doesn't. And that makes it an easy production to produce. Also, everything that you're going to be reading in here, all beautiful 90-some pages, is dialogue. It's what people say. Every once in a while you'll get an aside from the director, and I'll talk about those in a second. But really, we're focused on what people say to one another. There's certainly plot and action, but it's really through the dialogue that we get to know who people are and get to focus in on things like theme and symbols. And so that dialogue becomes even more important maybe than it does in short stories. Just some quick theater ideas. The fourth wall is the imaginary wall that the audience gets to see through to see what's going on stage. Sometimes it's a literal imaginary fourth wall. We're looking into an apartment building that wouldn't look like that. We're seeing on the inside, or a home. But it's also a figurative fourth wall too, in that the actors generally don't acknowledge that there's an audience. Now every once in a while you'll see a movie like Deadpool or Ferris Bueller's Day Off that breaks the fourth wall, that acknowledges that there's an audience and speaks directly to them. This play does not. This play never breaks that fourth wall. Blocking is how the characters move around the stage. It's very choreographed. It's why it takes a few months to put on a play. To do it well and to get those characters knowing where they're going to be standing and how to say their lines, it can take a while. Props are things you're going to need for a scene. And oftentimes physical items that you're going to need for a scene might be an important physical item in the scene. For example, there's a bottle of champagne in this first scene that I think is pretty interesting to think about in terms of not only what it means for the characters, but what it might mean symbolically as well. Characterization, moments where we get to know who characters are. In many cases in a play, it's going to be through that dialogue. And dramatic irony. This is the one you're going to need to know for the quiz. Dramatic irony takes place in a play when there's a moment that we, the audience, know something's going on that the characters on stage don't know. Now, certainly actors know the play backwards and forwards, so they know what's going on, but they're acting. This is a moment, you've seen these in movies all the time. Maybe somebody sneaks into a house to pull a prank on somebody. They go into a closet, they hide. We, the audience, know that they're hiding in the closet, and then someone comes in a minute later, opens the closet door. Surprise! We knew it was there. We're waiting to see how the actor who came in deals with the surprise, and it creates excitement. It creates engagement in the audience. So look for moments of dramatic irony in this play. Especially in the first scene, there's a pretty interesting moment, and it might even deal with the champagne bottle, that we know something is going on that the characters on stage don't know. Dramatic irony. It's a fun thing to think about. Shakespeare was famous in his plays of developing wonderful dramatic moments, dramatic irony moments in his work. But playwrights do it all the time. Television, film does it all the time as well. Now, when you're reading a play, you're going to be reading dialogue, and I'm sure you might already know this, but we get the name of the character, and then what they would be saying. And every once in a while, you're going to see something in parentheses, and it's in italics. Those are moments from the writer telling the actors to do something, but you wouldn't read that line as an actor. So here we have a line from Robert, the father figure in the play. He says, "He's not my student anymore. He's teaching now. Bright kid." And then we get this word beat. What that tells the actors to do is just let a moment of silence in before you say the next line. Don't go right into it. Give some space for the line to breathe. Now, for the characters, we've got 4 in this play, and I think they're all fantastic individuals, well-drawn characters. Catherine's our main character. If you have a copy of the play, that's her face on the cover of the book. And she's 25 years old. She is Robert's daughter. She's been living at home for the past few years, taking care of her father, who is suffering from a number of mental illnesses, and I'll get into that in a second. She's had to drop out of college to do that. She's living back at home. She's the primary caretaker. Robert is a famous mathematician. He succeeded in a number of different fields, high-order mathematics, high-level mathematics. If you ever got to see the movie Beautiful Mind, I think the mathematician's name in that is John Nash. He's modeled after John Nash. John Nash broke barriers with math in his 20s and 30s and then suffered from paranoid schizophrenia, bipolar disease, and very serious mental illness. And Robert's based loosely on him. Same kind of story, made it big in the math world, in the academic math world early on in his life, but his mental stability has slipped over the years. Claire is the other daughter that Robert has. She's Catherine's sister. They're 4 years apart. Claire lives in New York City. Catherine and Robert live in Chicago. And Claire is not readily available to take care of her father physically, but she provides other support in other ways. And then we have Hal, who is a former student of Robert's. He's a doctoral student getting his PhD, and he's working on his thesis, which is a huge amount of work. It usually takes a couple years at least to research and carve out a little bit of knowledge that is solely yours in the academic world. That's what he's working on. Let's see here. I want to show you a picture of the setting and of the play. It was described as a back porch in a Chicago neighborhood, and this is, I think, my favorite one I could find online. So the Chicago houses, especially around the University of Chicago where it takes place, are brick, built around the turn of the century and early 1900s, late 1800s. Beautiful, but also like Maine homes, not built with the best construction materials or the best insulation materials, drafty windows, crooked banisters, but a lot of character and a lot of beauty in them. If you ever go there, if you've ever been to Chicago in this part of town, it does remind me a little bit of the West End in Portland. And let's see, in terms of the characters, here's one. I'll give you this one. This is okay. Here we got Robert sitting on his porch, Catherine in the background. And what both of these settings do get right, I think this one and this one. Whoops, not that one. This one. Not that one. Where'd you go? This one. These two, this one and this one, is that the house is in a bit of disrepair. The father's been sick, the daughter's been taking care of the father. There's not a lot of time to paint the shutters or roll the hose, if you will, or pick the weeds. And so, in the productions I've seen of this, the house is generally almost kind of falling apart on the outside. And I think we'll see that actually connects to some of the characters in the play. Let's talk about big ideas here for the last part of this. We got a few of them. And these are themes, big ideas about life. The first being the math world and math culture. Bertrand Russell, a famous philosopher and mathematician, once said that mathematics, rightly viewed, possesses not only truth, but supreme beauty, a beauty cold and austere like that of sculpture, without appeal to any part of our weaker nature, without the gorgeous trappings of painting or music, yet sublimely pure and capable of a stern perfection such as only the greatest art can show. And generations have gradually created an ordered cosmos where pure thought can dwell in its natural home. Now there's a number of interesting ideas there. I don't know how you personally feel about math. Math for me is, it probably won't surprise you being an English major, was not my best subject. And I often get confused even in simple math problems. But I do see it as something that's beautiful. And I do see it as something that's generally, I would say, objective. 2 plus 2 is always going to equal 4. I know that math fact. And there's something comfortable in that objectivity. The human world, a little bit different. It's hard sometimes to find objectivity in the human world. We deal with emotions. We deal with relationships. Those are subjective. And not as perhaps clean as 2 plus 2 equaling 4. I think this play is trying to get at that idea about math. That there is something just purely sublime about it. It's clear, it's understandable. And my friends who are mathematicians love that about math. Now the other thing about math that it's getting to is that it is beautiful. This is harder for me to see, I gotta be honest. But that numbers can have particular qualities that make them fascinating. Prime numbers are discussed in this play. Prime numbers are numbers that are only divisible by 1 in themselves. 1, 2, 3, 5, 7. I can keep going. One more.